Greetings and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to explore our own Python package, WML AI Model Managers, which makes it easy to train and chat with your own models from scratch. Please like, share, subscribe, and reach out to us in the comment section for any help, tips, and suggestions. So, model managers, why do we need them? ChatGPT LLM, which is a tongue twister, right? Hugging Face, we're all interacting with AI models, right? But we're not AI developers ourselves. This Python library package will help us be AI developers, right? It's super simple to train and it's super simple to chat. And then if you want to adjust our hyperparameters, right, instead of thinking of complex calculus, right, and geometries, right, we can adjust these values as needed along with the explanations, right? So essentially, there's many ways to store a model as a file. One of the ways is a pickle. Python has a pickle library that allows us to do this. And now the data pipe function, right? This is where the data sets come from, not where they live, right? So this function here is from the pytorch text data sets and the functions that are provided. So this is one of many of them. You essentially want to create your own for your own data, but at a high level, what's going on, and you can research further, is that here, this function, when it's called, it returns a data loader, right? Which goes ahead, fetches the data set from the World Wide Web, right? And how it feeds it to the application is in a data pipe, right? So this data loader would essentially stream your data set to the model manager for it to learn. Now, this vocab folder is to help with encoding and decoding, right? So when there's a prompt, right, it needs to be encoded into a vector, which is ultimately a tensor in PyTorch for the model to try to understand and work with. Then the model will process that vector input, that tensor input, and provide a bunch of tensors, which needs to be decoded into output. That's why it needs to take all the vocabulary, all the letters in that text, right? And it needs to be able to provide a decoding and encoding for itself so that the communication can happen. And now get data set, that's used for training. And then when you don't need it, this is used for chat. So let's see what's going on here. So essentially what I want to start from scratch. And essentially, as this loads, what's happening, it's loading the data set into dataloader. So this dataloader gets initialized. Now it's calling that data set, which is a lot of data. And now there's always two, train and test. Because if your model trains on all your data without actually testing it, then it really just memorizes all your data. And when it comes across something new, it's not able to guess. We want it to test so that it can improve its learning. Okay. Now we get the vocab info, right? Like I said earlier, that's for encoding and then decoding. And then shortly after it grabs this information, it's going to start its training session. Now the training session, you could think of it as a person as they go from pre-K through college, right? So 20 grades in each. And here we're going to have 15,000 iterations. Like each iteration represents a grade. So as a regular person goes from grade 1, grade 2, right? So as this model, right? The regular person has only 20 iterations to go through, but models, they have 15,000, right? And when it starts out as expected, right, this training loss and the value loss is very high, which means it has a long way to go before it gets to the end of its education, before it could be meaningful. Just like kids, right, they have to go through school before they could take a meaningful job. It's going to be the same thing with this machine learning. It's going to have to get trained before it can answer prompts like ChatGPT. So we start to see here that it starts out at 0.5 and then goes to 0.25. right? We want a training loss of 1. And let's try to communicate with that. Because anything away from 1.2 is going to be incomprehensible. So I want to go ahead and chat with this model. It's going to be very quick because we're not loading that data set. And since this is Amazon reviews, I'm going to ask, what is the best product on Amazon? And now this data, it gets turned into a tensor, fed to the model, and then the model's going to process it. And just to get even a bit deeper, what's happening, there's a lot of matrix multiplication. A tensor is a vector, but it's really being turned into a matrix. There's a lot of multiplication happening, and this multiplication turns into this result, right? So we could see that with a value of 2.3, right, it's incomprehensible. So now what I want to do is I want to get a model that I've already pre-trained. And now what I want to do is I want to chat with that model. So this has a value about 1.3, and we're going to ask it the same question. Goes on. It's going to take its time. And if you kind of read this prompt, right, we can start to see that the phrases are meaningful. Like it's just able to spell more words correctly, right? So we go ahead and train this, and then we want to make sure we load from the pickle file. We go ahead and train this, right, we're going to be able to see that its loss is around 1.3, right? And then we want to try to ask the prompt again. All right, it's going to start its training session. But in the meantime, what I want to do is that I want to speak about the corpus, right? So we kind of saw that as a result that it was able to spell some words right, but it's still incomprehensible in a way. What essentially needs to happen is that when you're training your own data, right, it needs to be able to speak. So a corpora, right, is a representation of the day-to-day language that you speak with other people every day. So the conversations that millions and billions of people having around the world, right, and corpora is language by language, right, gets put into one corpora. The machine learning model trains on this so it can understand speech. So when you ask it a question, it gives you a comprehensible answer, right? Or it's taken what it knows, it gives that a comprehensible answer. So first, what would need to happen is that you would have to make a custom data pipe function to train on the English corpora, something that we'll work on, but we also want the community to help out. Then you would want to go ahead and create a data pipe function for your own data. So essentially that's what's happening here. And we kind of see the loss was at 13.2 and it's going to continue to train on. However, instead of waiting for our model to train, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where you can download our package. So pypi.org, and for those you don't know, just like JavaScript is to npm, Python is to pypi. This is where you upload your libraries once you want to share them with the world, and you can download, right? It'll be pip install. Look at the example files, set it up like so, and go from there. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and reach out to us in the comment section for any help, tips, and suggestions.